It's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Wedding Banquet, the fourth film directed by Andrew Ahn, which premiered at the 2025 Sundance Film Festival. Bleecker Street is releasing it April 18th, 2025.
So I've seen all of this director's films.
Yeah, Spa Night, Driveways, and Fire Island, the last two of which we reviewed.
And I recall liking all of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is The Wedding Banquet about? A gay man makes a deal with his lesbian friend, a green card marriage for him in exchange for in vitro fertilization treatments for her. Plans evolve as Min's grandmother surprises them with a Korean wedding banquet. What is your pull quote?
The dramatic logistics of Andrew Ahn's remake of Ang Lee's The Wedding Banquet feel speciously progressive, often in ways which suffocate its meaningfulness and cathartic potential.
Mine. Failing to conjure much emotion or humor, The Wedding Banquet feels like a pointless remake. I hate to say it, but I did not like this movie.
Of the four films Andrew Ahn's directed, it's my least favorite, probably by a bit. But I might have had high expectations, and I was very curious to see what updates were going to be made to Ang Lee's sophomore film. If you haven't seen the original Wedding Banquet, which was co-written by James Schamus, that's a fantastic film. Chen, who's an actor, she abandoned acting, I believe went into politics, but her performance in that is so good. I think the original feels magical, but also very 1993.
You know, it's also unfortunate that I'm watching this almost back to back with A Nice Indian Boy, which I thought was a really lovely film with, similar in the sense that you have a queer couple getting married.
But the beats that it's hitting are poignant, maybe familiar, but poignant, and
it's funny.
And it was funny, yeah.
So yeah, this one, I giggled one time, literally one time, and I got emotional once. And this movie is more than 90 minutes.
It is.
Okay, the story. So there are two queer couples, a gay male couple and a lesbian couple. So what's up with the lesbian couple? They're played by Lily Gladstone and
Kelly Marie Tran. Lee and Angela are their names.
So they're trying to get pregnant via in vitro fertilization.
They're on round two.
They're on round two, and it's not successful. And they're not rich, so they realize, like, we really can't afford to do this again. And it's Lily Gladstone's character who really wants to be pregnant and have a baby. So they're not happy with that.
And however, they're not married because Lee doesn't believe in institutions.
Yeah.
So that's an important fact.
Then the guys, so Han, his character's name again?
Min, played by Han Gai-chen.
So he comes from a very rich Korean family. They have like these amazing corporate headquarters and
they're in Seattle.
They're based in Seattle, and then we hear from his grandmother who runs the company that they've just like purchased additional businesses, so they're gonna have offices, even more offices all over the globe.
And grandma's played by Oscar winner Yuh-jung.
But Han's character, there's a dilemma because he was on a student visa, but he's out of school, and so of course his grandmother's saying, well, we're gonna make you the creative director of one of our new businesses in the US, so you can of course stay on your work visa. But he doesn't want to work for the family business, and his grandmother knows that. So he comes up with the plan to propose to his boyfriend, played by Bowen Yang.
Chris.
What do we know about Bowen Yang? Nothing, except that he keeps putting off finishing grad school. He's been in a relationship with Han's character for 5 years. Bowen's character lives in the garage of the lesbians. And it seems like Han lives in the garage with him.
It seems so.
It seems real raggedy. But Bowen's character says, no, I don't want to marry you. You're only doing this because you want to stay in the country, and this might ruin our relationship, which we need to talk about more because his character doesn't make any sense to me.
No. Again, the logistics of this update.
But Han's character decides to ask Kelly's character,
Angela,
if she'll marry him, because he tells them, well, I'm very rich and you need money for another round of in vitro. So I'll give you the money if you marry me. Which, of course, the first thing we thought was,
You're rich and hanging out in our garage, and you didn't just offer that
you're
anyway?
very rich. And we've been friends for years. And you live in my garage, and you know I'm having these troubles. And you just don't want to help me. But anyway, the ladies end up saying yes. So while that's all happening, Han tells his grandmother, like, I'm marrying this lady. And she decides to just pop up. She flies in from Korea unannounced.
We need to talk about that.
We do, because she wants to make sure that this is like a legit thing and that this woman's not taking advantage of him.
Because her response makes sense, but them not expecting her to have that response
Right.
makes no sense.
So grandma's in town. Then also Kelly's character's mom, played by Joan Chen, who I think is my favorite part of the movie.
But yes,
She's like a P flag mom, but she has her issues too, which we'll get to. So they're all together, but they decide to throw a bachelorette party for Kelly. And she and Bowen get really drunk and hook up. We don't see it. We just see them wake up in the morning not aware of what they've done. They're just both naked in bed. And then you can predict what happens next. She ends up getting pregnant by Bowen. So of course that causes that, third act conflict that tears everything down. But they decide to go through with the wedding. But it's important to know, before the wedding happens, Han's character and his grandmother have a heart-to-heart. And she basically says, like, I don't know what it's like to love your spouse because I didn't love your granddaddy. So seeing you here with your friends and like this, your chosen family, makes me happy for you and makes me hope that you can move forward doing what makes you happy and loving who you want to love. It's also important to know the grandmother told him, you have to get married because your grandfather hates the gays. And if he knows you're gay, he won't give you any more money. So why don't we just have you marry this lady? We'll have a bunch of pictures taken, put it in the newspapers so he's satisfied, because he's going to die soon anyway. So the grandmother seems pretty cool about all of it.
But and they have to move forward with it because there already was an announcement that there was going to be it's expected that there's going to be a wedding, so there's no going back on that.
And we need to talk about the wedding, but the wedding happens, the photos happen, so they're all good. But at the actual when they go down to City Hall to get the marriage license, Bowen Yang pops up and basically proposes to Han, and they get married. And then we flash forward a year and see that, because of course the ladies, because of Han's money, got another round of in vitro. So a year later we see that both ladies ended up having a baby. One from the in vitro and one from the two friends hooking up. And so they're living together, raising these two kids. And the final shot of the film, which we need to talk about, is Kelly's character just staring off into space looking satisfied. Which really confused me, because I felt like the character with the most turmoil or internal conflict was Bowen Yang's character. Except that it's not really developed. So
it seems empty.
So then I guess everything just rests on Kelly's character to seem like she got what she wanted.
I think Bowen Yang's character, Chris, and Lily Gladstone, feel underdeveloped in a way that it would have been helpful to kind of understand them a bit more.
What did I like about the movie? Joan Chen.
Joan Chen, I mean, looks fantastic, but I mean, she's always a bright spot. You didn't see Dee Dee, and she plays another mom in that recently, but is probably a bit more of a likable mother in that film. But
any lightheartedness and humor comes from her.
And Yuh-jung as well, I think is...
I liked her too.
Amusing.
Yeah. But aside from that, so of the four main characters, like the two couples, I think Lily Gladstone gives the best performance.
Yes, I agree.
Bowen Yang is doing Bowen Yang, but without the jokes. So it kind of felt...
Well,
and then his character bird watches. It's like, so this character is boring and bird watches.
Ooh-wee. Ooh-wee. It's not so much that he's not playing a comic foil. It's just that what he's given to work with, like his rationale for not wanting to marry Min, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense, and nobody's communicating in a way that would be effective. And I feel like it could have been tweaked a bit for his excuse to make sense.
Well, can we talk about that more? Because Bowen Yang says, I don't want to ruin our relationship by getting married. You two have been together for 5 years. I didn't mention another character. Bowen Yang's cousin,
Kendall, played by Bobo Lee,
is kind of in the periphery as like a little bird giving him like words of wisdom.
She's there to have conversations with Chris that help us explain him better. But instead, I feel like we could have cut her out completely.
100%. Also, we don't learn until close to the end that the reason she's even buzzing around is because she had problems with her family. Like, I don't know if she's queer, I don't know why, but she had to flee her family. And Bowen Yang, I guess, supported her in Seattle. But the other gag is that Bowen Yang's character lives in a garage. It's not cute. But then we see him at her house helping her like do something.
He's cleaning for her. Yeah.
And she has a nicer place than he does. I'm confused by that. I don't understand how I'm with someone for 5 years and they are very rich and I'm living in a garage.
And when he buys me a Cartier ring,
And
I say
proposes.
no.
And I say no, because it's going to ruin it. How could it get worse? We also, the one thing that we know about Bowen Yang's character is that he has not finished grad school. He's kind of loafing
He's
about.
a procrastinator, yes.
If you love me, wouldn't you encourage me to push forward? You would support me in like my dreams, our dreams?
Well, that's the conversation that they need to have. One, men should be, what are you trying to do with your life? I know I can support you, but what are your goals and ambitions? But I think where Chris, Bowen Yang's character, could have said, I don't want to marry you because I feel like we've hit a point of stagnation and you don't motivate me or push me or care about how I'm feeling living in a garage as a mid-30-something that hasn't finished my master's.
Then we find out that his boyfriend, Min, has been like sort of loafing about as well for 7 years. So that means the entire time they've been dating, Min's just been doing his art and living off of his family's money. This couple just feels like, who cares? Well, I just didn't care about this couple. They don't, like, to me, they don't seem like they belong together.
Well, they don't have any chemistry. And I think too many times with Min, that we depend on Han Guy Chen to be funny, and I just don't think that there's any comedic delivery there.
Well, I'm going to say, I think the worst part of the movie is that actor. I thought
especially in the first act. Yeah.
Like, his performance is not great.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I'm just going to start going through my notes. The opening was kind of promising to me because it starts off with this, like, LGBTQIA plus event that I think celebrates, like, Asian queerness, actually. And we see that the two ladies are there with Joan Chen, Kelly's character's mom, and she's being awarded some ally award. And it was cute, and then we get a drag performance, and then we switch to Min, Han's character. He's an artist, and I think he's having some sort of gallery showing. And then all of a sudden that same drag queen pops up. And it's like, oh, this, between Joan Chen's really cute energy and annoying her daughter and the drag queen, I thought, oh, it has some life to it. And then after that first 5 minutes, it just all becomes like 4 people who seem like, I don't know. I wrote down, which I know I'm gonna get in trouble for, but I just wrote down because all these funky ass decisions that don't make sense and like, what are you trying to do? It's not that I don't agree with like not being married and having kids from these people. It's nothing like that. It's just like,
and redefining what family is.
yeah, I'm all for that, but it's not satisfying to me to watch people who are too damn old like make these dumbass decisions.
They do all feel a little too old to be acting this way.
And then, and then like, it would work if it were funny.
If it were funny, or if it were being authentic and honest about what these people are doing, or that they have a perspective. Because all 4 of them, I don't really feel like there's any real perspective other than we're gay and one of us really wants a child for some reason. Even though she's like Lily Gladstone's character is a person who, based on her profession and her beliefs, it feels like you seem like the last person that would think we need to bring another human into the world.
Also, she seems very in tune with her feelings and communicating, and then her partner, who I feel like her sort of dramatic catalyst of having this resentment towards her mother feels very canned.
And overutilized. I mean, because what we get is that she never really came. Her mother kind of avoided her queerness forever, and then kind of it sounds like they were emotionally estranged. And all of a sudden, Joan Chen, whose character's name is Mei Chen, comes back in the scene and is like a superhero ally.
I wish there would have been an examination of maybe the mother saying, like, well, I didn't really like you before because you weren't being your authentic self. You were mean. Something to help us explain, because the way it plays out in this movie is like, oh, my mom just likes attention. So that's why she likes her queer daughter. But then there's a really emotional scene when
The best scene of the film is with Joan Chen in the bathroom.
that's right, because during the wedding banquet, which we're going to get back to it, but that wedding banquet was so blasé that I thought it was the rehearsal.
I thought that so too. I'm like, okay, they're gonna do the real thing now, right?
And then it's like, oh, nope, that was the real wedding. But during the wedding banquet,
But it's supposed to feel off because it's not real.
well, oh God, there's so much. I agree with you, except that I also don't like the way the film is shot. It feels very small. The lighting feels weird. There's a nightclub scene that looks like,
Well, they're at the bar drinking shots, and that seems appropriately lit, I guess. But then they're on the dance floor, and it's like, whoa, why is there a spotlight on the dance floor?
watching the trailer, I thought this would be so much more fun and upbeat, but it really is quite flat. And I think, anyway, getting back to Joan Chen's scene that I really liked, during the wedding banquet, Kelly's character becomes sick. She vomits, and the vomit looked like soft serve to me. But of course, we already know that she had sex with Bowen Yang, so it's morning sickness. So we cut to Joan Chen having bought a pregnancy test, and then we're waiting to get the results, and they're positive. She's pregnant. And Joan Chen and Kelly's character have a really nice exchange. It was the only moment where I got emotional, or felt like there was any emotion. And the mom is basically saying, like, I know I wasn't a great mom, but I learned a lot being your mother, and I love you so much. And I think that you will be the same. You might even be worse than I am when you start, but you're going to learn to be better. And I love you no matter what decision you make. That was a really beautiful scene.
I agree. Well, and it's only one of only two moments. The other one being with Yuh-jung with her kind of telling her grandson that I sent you away to protect you from your grandfather.
Yes.
To protect you. Like it's the only time where some actual hard truths are being hinted at. Like we're looking at kind of, you know, the real feelings lying underneath the surface. Like when she tells her daughter, "You might be a worse mom than I was." Like nothing. And to me, that's not even really that deep of a statement, but everything else feels very surface, very superficial. For a feeling that is calling out, a film that's calling out other characters in the screenplay for not being able to communicate and suppress their feelings. This whole film feels like it's doing that.
I know this is a remake, but I felt like the better story would have been to focus on Joan Chen and the grandmother, and maybe these two women helping each other understand their queer kids. And then maybe the queer kids are out there and crazy, like, we're poly and we're doing all this shit that we're forcing our parents and grandparents to understand, but then maybe through witnessing their parents or elders, they realize that maybe their choices aren't actually the best for them. I don't know, something more meaningful than just like, so four people who are in these, what I think are kind of raggedy relationships, ended up getting pregnant, and so what? So now they're gonna live together and raise these two kids? Like, okay, who cares?
Well, and also the kind of not really wading into the Chinese and Korean aspects and how those cultures sometimes have clashed or might have some differences that would be worth coming into play. Like it kind of ignores that altogether too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Then the film also has that ubiquitous scene where they have to de-gay the house. And nothing will come close in my mind to the birdcage. So this just felt like, it just felt a little tired.
Yes, because I saw the DVDs they're pulling off the shelf. It's like, I don't think grandma's gonna think anything about Kelly Reichardt's certain women. I think you can let that one stay on the shelf.
I was also a little confused because the scene where the grandmother calls everyone out, like this, she literally says like, y'all are idiots and like, you're gay. There's no way you're sleeping with this lady. Like, I know that you're gay. But It was unclear to me. No one seems to speak Korean except Min, but then they all seem to understand her. But then sometimes they don't. I don't know.
She says a whole lot of kind of a complicated plan for what she needs to happen now at this point, that the cat's out of the bag. And they all nod like Angela's like, yeah, I'm down. Did you understand?
You understand what she's saying? Okay, when it comes to Min, Han's character, when he finds out that Bowen Yang got Kelly's character pregnant, I already found him kind of annoying, but then he goes, was this penis sperms, not test tube sperms? I hated, he sounds like a child to me.
Yes, yes, it was aggravating.
Maybe you don't want to marry him because he's like an immature person. I don't know. But in the end, the ladies reconcile after Bowen and Han get married.
Because Chris and Angela were friends in college and slept together as freshmen. So, we're fed that information very early on. So that doesn't make sense to me either, because in the original, you have these two people in kind of an insane scenario, right, that get drunk, and it's kind of a release of the tension that these two people sleep together when they're inebriated. These two, like, fully drunk, it looked like Angela was going to throw up on the dance floor. They had sex?
Because we don't even see it. We see her literally about to pass out from alcohol intoxication. And then the next morning they wake up naked with the sun shining on them. Yeah, I mean, it just was like, how did that even happen?
I just think these people at this age, I think that probably might not be a thing. I don't know. I mean, people do all kinds of dumb things.
I also think to make a remake of a 90s queer film in 2025 and not go a little deeper, because there's no conversation about, like, is Kelly considering terminating the pregnancy? There just isn't, it's not going anywhere.
Well, Joan Chen says, if this is what you want.
That's the closest we get to it, is the mother saying something. I feel so bad that I don't like this movie.
I wanted to... I don't know. I just couldn't find a lot to latch onto that was like, oh, this feels like, what's moving the conversation forward? It comes close in moments. I think that the tension between Angela and her mother comes close. This thought of like, wait, we have this whole period of time that I haven't been able to kind of work through with you when you weren't there for me when I needed you to be, and now you are. And it's like, if you've ever had to go through that with a parent, when you kind of have to backtrack over some miserable years that happened and process
I really wanted to hear the mother's perspective.
Yes, like it's like push that conversation
because
forward.
She is extra, like she is such an ally that it doesn't make sense to me that she wouldn't have accepted her daughter. Like, it must, like, what could have caused this rift where you two didn't speak for years and now you're like at every gay event? It feels like something that belongs in a straight up comedy.
Right.
But that's not what this is.
And then Joan Chen says, like, I'm trying, I'm making up for it now. It's like, well, she is in a way that a lot of people would not either. But and I wish that, because Lily Gladstone pushes her, like, you need to, have it out with your mother. But I just want somebody to tell this young woman, like, there are silver linings, honey. I don't know.
Well, I would recommend watching the 1993 version. I also recommend A Nice Indian Boy if you're looking for a modern queer love story.
Sure, yeah.
What would you give The Wedding Banquet?
Joan Chen, Lily Gladstone, and Yuh-jung, the three of them gave me enough to get myself through it in moments. I'm giving it 2.5.
It didn't work for me. I would give it 2 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.